How your football boots look doesn't matter. What's important is how they feel. Now that's a statement I agree with 90% of the time. But the truth is, when we go out onto the field, we want to be wearing something that at least we think looks good. So today we're going to have some fun and rank the most popular football boots on the market based on how they look. So obviously this is all going to be my opinion, so please let me know in the comments below which boots you think look the best. And at the end of the video, if you're looking to grab any of the boots that we discuss, you can find links to them in the description below with discount codes. Now let's get into the list. And to kick things off, we have the Nike Tiempo Legend 10. Now this is a boot that I really love. Almost every version I've tried on this boot, they've been so comfortable, so fun to play in, all the way from the elite version down to the takedown versions. But I gotta say, I don't think that this boot is that great looking. The patterning on the upper, I just think that they could have done more here. It just looks a little bit unfinished, a little bit messy to me. And I think that some of the previous versions, like the Legend 9 that was made with traditional leather, just looked a little bit better. It's not a horrible looking football boot, but for me, it's pretty average. So I'm gonna go C tier for the Tiempo Legend 10. However, Nike did just recently release an updated model of the Legend 10 called the Emerald Edition. I reviewed that a couple months ago. The fit and feel is essentially exactly the same as the original Legend 10, but you get this cool diamond pattern all throughout the upper. You also get two sick colorways. It came out in this launch kind of green teal edition that I reviewed, and now it has a pearlescent white version as well that also looks extremely good. I think that the change in upper made all the difference. It looks so much better than the original Legend 10. And for me, the Legend 10 Emerald would be an A tier boot. I really hope that the next edition of the Tiempo, they go with a similar like diamond patterning. Something about it is kind of retro, and I just think they pulled it off so well. But with all of that being said, I still don't think it looks quite as good as Nike's OG model, one of my favorite boots that they make still to this day, and that's the Nike Premier 3. I mean, come on. This has to be S tier. It hasn't been around for that long in terms of Nike's entire lineup, but ever since they released this model, it's just such a simple design, and almost everything about the way they've made this boot, from an aesthetic perspective, I think they nailed. I love the optional fold-over tongue that ships with the boot, gives it that nice vintage feel, and the colorways they have with the Premier 3. I have mine in a platinum colorway, but this white base with the green swoosh, they have so many different really cool colorways of the Premier 3, and it's Nike's most affordable top-end boot. For me, the boot itself is a no-brainer, and one of the reasons I like it so much is due to the looks. And sometimes that can happen with boots. I mean, there's so many boots that feel comfortable on the market, and if you're choosing between two where the comfort is so close to one another, you're just gonna go with the one that looks better. And for me, the Nike Premier 3 is gonna win that contest with its competitors most of the time. So next up, we have the Mercurial Vapor 15. I'm kind of lumping this in with the Superfly because the Superfly is essentially a similar boot, just with that higher cut collar. And this isn't the best colorway of the Vapor 15, I'll be honest, but I think it's a good looking boot. It's a very safe boot, I think, in Nike's lineup. It's not really going for anything too crazy. The Vaporposit upper is very clean, very sleek, but it's not too standout. So I'm gonna go B for the Vapor 15. It's good, but I don't think it's amazing from an aesthetic perspective, and I think there have been better looking Mercurial models from previous years. So next up, we have the Phantom GX2. This is probably the most ambitious of any design that Nike has right now. I mean, the grip knit material is pretty crazy. The way it's evolved over the past couple years, aesthetically, there's more going on with the Phantom compared to any boot that Nike has. This colorway, the teal one that we have here, I think it's a little bit busy. There's a lot going on, but some of the other launch colorways they had with the GX2, like the black and white one that I reviewed, was a very beautiful boot. I think it looks really good. I think the grip knit looks great. As far as boots that have this off-center lacing system, I don't think any look as good as the Phantom. For me, it's going to be A tier. It's a great looking boot. Next up, a brand that's known for making really out there aesthetically football boots. It would be Puma. We got the Puma Future 7. This is probably the best looking boot that Puma makes. It's got a really clean mesh upper. As far as like sock-like football boots, Puma was pretty much the first one to do it with the Future series. And all of the Futures have been pretty out there from a design perspective. If you remember a few years ago, they had the NetFit 5 version of the Puma Future that was like black and yellow. It looked like a cheetah print pattern almost. I kind of like the look of those boots. I can understand why it could be divisive. I think with the most recent version of the Future 7 that they have here, they toned it back a little bit with the colorways, with the aesthetics. And I think that this one that's kind of white, pink, and blue looks really clean. And most of the new colorways of the Future 7 have looked great. I think there are some better knit upper football boots you can get, but from a purely looks perspective, it's A tier for me. Next up, we got, we're shifting over quickly to some New Balance models here, and we have the Tequila V4 Pro, the laceless variation. This boot, I think it's a little bit divisive because of the logo, and some people are going to like it and some people are going to hate it. I mean, let me know what you think of the logo in the comments below, because definitely it's very pronounced on the boots. It's very big, it's very out there, but I think it looks pretty good. And I think that they made a lot of improvements with this with the Tequila V4 compared to the one we saw last year. This is the Tequila V4 Plus. They cleaned it up a little bit from the original V4. The upper is just a little bit more sleek. The logo they also redid. And I think this variation is better. I think it's the best looking laceless boot that you can get. I think the Tequila V4 Plus, I think it has to go S tier. I mean, just look at this the all white colorway with the black logo. I mean, what's a better looking laceless boot than that? I think that might be kind of controversial, but I have to put it there. It's just so sleek. I mean, in terms of like a clean striking surface, you're not going to get anything close to what you get on the Tequila V4. So I'm going to put that S tier just because, I mean, it's the best looking laceless boot. In my opinion, no contest. Then the low edition that we have next here, it's like from a design perspective, it's similar to the laceless version. It's just going to be a little bit more basic because it's more traditional. It's got a low-cut elasticated collar. The addition of a lacing system still looks very, very good. The colorway I reviewed was the blue colorway with some orange accents. Great looking football boot. The all-white one I reviewed last year was also looked amazing. I'm going to go A tier for the low edition. Next up, we have the Puma Ultra Ultimate. This boot is just similar to the Mercurial. It's a little bit too safe. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like it looks a little bit dated. I feel like speed boots have been looking similar to the Puma Ultra Ultimate since like 2018, 2017, even before that. I don't think they innovated enough with the design to make it stand out. For me, it's going to go C tier. There's just so many more interesting looking speed boots that you can get. Next up, another one from New Balance. I actually have this boot here. There we go. This is in the white variation with the orange accents on the sole plate. This is an amazing football boot in terms of comfort. I think the gray variation that I have here on the tier list looks even better. But if we're being real, they could have done more with this. New Balance could have done so much more with the aesthetic of these boots. I think the toe box is pretty nice, and I like the stitching. It's really intricate. The leather is high quality at the front of the boots. I think towards the sides of the boots, they kind of gave up from a design perspective, and we're like, all right, just throw the logo on there, and we're done. It's as far as the leather football boots on this list, if I'm being brutally honest, it might be one of the worst looking. So the 442, I don't want people to get this twisted. I love this football boot. I really do. I wore it so much last year, but I mean, it's gotta go. I'll give it C tier. I'll give it C tier. I was close to D tier on that one, but I'm gonna give it C tier because there's parts of this boot that I like. Next up, we have the Furon, which is another boot with an offset lacing system similar to the Phantom GX. They made improvements with the Furon V7 Plus compared to the edition that was released last year. I think the original V7, I would have put pretty low in this list because I really wasn't a huge fan of how it looked. The laces also felt kind of cheap on that version. The off-center lacing system just didn't look that good either. It looked like such an afterthought. But they cleaned up the upper a lot. They updated the logo similar to the other, similar to the new Tequila. And it looks better now. And the colorways have looked better too. So I'm actually going to go B tier for the Furon. I don't think it looks as good as the Tequila, but they've made improvements to last year. I think on par with the Vapor 15 is fair. Next up, another boot that I have right here. The Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta Elite. This is like, if you have this football boot, it's like, if you know, you know. These boots look so good in person, and they also just feel so premium. I don't think I'm hesitant to say, but there's maybe only one or two football boots I've bought in the past like 3 years that are as well built as the Neo 4 Betas that I have here. I think they look amazing. Like this red in person looks nuts. It's so vibrant. It's so bright. I also love the Mizuno logo. I just think it's so clean. I think the Nike swoosh is iconic, but the Mizuno logo might be one of my favorites. It's just, there's something so like directional about it that I love. The leather looks beautiful. The synthetic on the side of the midfoot looks beautiful. The knit material on top of the boots is amazing. Even the sole plate looks pretty good too. I think this might be an S tier for me. Just because not only do all of the materials really shine on the boots, but the colorways are great too. So I'm going S tier for the Mizunos. Next up, we got the Puma King Ultimate. This is a pretty boring looking boot. I'm not gonna lie. I think even Nike with the Legend 10, I said it was a little bit messy, their interpretation of that synthetic leather material, but at least it wasn't boring. And the Puma King Ultimate is pretty boring. It's such an uninspired looking boot. Nothing against it. I think, they're trying to innovate with the synthetic leather material, but I think they've got to make some major strides with the next release of the Puma King for, to pique people's interest and get more people picking up that model. Next up, we got a rough one up next. Oh my God. I have this football boot somewhere. I just didn't pull it out. But this is the Umbro Velocita. I think I might be getting kind of swayed because this is also a pretty bad football boot. It's extremely uncomfortable on feet. But I don't know who they're trying to impress with this kind of design aesthetic, but these do not look good. These are crazy, man. These boots look kind of like an optical illusion. I mean, unlike Puma that I just mentioned, I do kind of respect that they're going for something a little bit more out there. I don't mind the green and black colorway, but like in person, the mesh on these football boots, like the mesh upper, it's so low quality. It's so rigid. And by the time you get them on your feet, you're like 30 minutes away from having terrible blisters on your heels that you're not going to care about how they look. You're going to want to get them off. These boots, they have to go E tier. Umbro, they have potential, but they can be doing so much more. I mean, not only do they need to make better looking boots, but they just need to make better boots in general. Next up, We got the Mizuno Morelia 2 here. I actually have them in the exact same colorway. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful looking football boots. Very similar to like the Premier 3s as far as the design aesthetic. Just like super soft kangaroo leather, a little bit higher quality, I'll be honest, compared to the Premier 3s. But I mean, I'm really hesitant to, you know, I'm hesitating between A tier and S tier for the Morelias, but I don't think that they look quite as good as the Neo 4 Beta Elite that's next to it. They're a little bit more traditional, a little bit more reserved, but they still look so good. I'm going to go A tier for the Mizuno Morelia 2. Very close to being S tier, though. They look so good. Next up, got the Mizuno Alphas. So, on feet, I thought these boots were all right. I thought they were pretty solid. They were a bit too narrow in the toe box for me personally, but I have to admit, these boots look really good. At this version here with the gold sole plate and the teal upper, it looks so clean. It's one of the most aggressive looking speed boot designs I think you can find. It's almost like where Puma should have gone with their Ultra line. That's where Mizuno went with the Alpha. And keep in mind, I think this is their first major synthetic release of a speed boot, and they nailed it. Like, aesthetically, it's so impressive. Honestly, this boot is stunning compared to some of the rest of the boots on this list. It's really simple, but it gets everything right. I think I got to go S tier for the Mizuno Alpha. It just, you can tell from this list so far, like I'm putting the Mizuno boots high, and there's a reason for that. They just look so good. They put time into their craftsmanship, into the aesthetics, and it shows in the final product. Then next up, we have, we're getting into the Adidas models now. Ooh, and got a great looking boot. This is the Copa Gloro. I've got mine right here in the white version with the green, like the lime green accents. Such a good looking football boot. I think that the one here with the red accents is even better looking. I think we have to go A tier. I don't think it's as nice as the Nike Premier 3, who's its direct competitor, but it looks really good. I love the fold over tone. I think that's adds a great vibe, and it's also the only boot on this list that has that, one of two boots on this list that has the elasticated strap. It reminds me of boots from like 2005, 2006, like the classic Predators. It's a great look. Then might get some controversy for this because this is the Copa Mundial. Some people don't like how these boots look, but I tell you, if you see someone pull up to the field wearing classic Copa Mundials, listen, if you see someone pulling up wearing these boots, all right, there's a couple different scenarios. It could be like a 50-year-old, 60-year-old guy just getting back into the game. It could be a referee, or you could be about to get absolutely cooked because some of the people wearing these boots are actually mad good. I think that the Copa Mundials look awesome. I've worn these boots to hell and back, and they are still intact. The leather is still doing really, really well. Look at how soft the leather is. I wore these boots for almost 2 seasons straight. Copa Mundial, it can't be anywhere but S tier. It just has to be. It has to be S tier. And I don't regret that one bit. I still think it's one of the best looking boots that Adidas makes. Next up, the Copa Pure. This is another boot that on feet, for me, was just a little bit too narrow for me to like fully enjoy. But I have to acknowledge, I think they look great. They look a lot better than the Tiempo Legend 10 that they compete with. So I have to go A tier for the Copa Pure. As far as like leather boots aesthetically, they look really, really good. They look absolutely amazing. Next up, we have the X Crazy Fast lace version here. Essentially, the laceless version looks exactly the same, just with the laces taken out. This is a good looking boot. However, I'd also say it's pretty safe from Adidas. It's, they're certainly not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just really focused on making small variations, little improvements and tweaks from the speed portal that came before it. But even then, I don't think it's the best looking speed boot that Adidas has released in the past few years. The Speed Flow that came out about 3 years ago, I think looked better. So for that reason, I don't think I can give it A tier. I'm going to go B tier. It looks good. I mean, just like the Vapor 15 looks good, but I don't think it's reinventing the wheel. It's nothing crazy. One boot that did kind of try to reinvent the wheel is the X Crazy Fast Plus. This is the lightest football boot that's on this entire list. I mean, it's probably one of the only boots on this list that you can see through. I mean, literally, you can tell in this picture that the upper is translucent in some parts, which is pretty nuts. I mean, these boots give you like shock value when you hold them in person for the first time, because when you pick them up, you're literally thinking, how can a pair of boots be this thin? How can they be this light? They're pretty ridiculous. They're essentially a modern, even more modern looking version of an F50, which when Adidas released, over a decade ago, were the lightest boots on the market at the time. So that was kind of Adidas trying to one-up themselves. And they're also one of the only Adidas boots you can get with the traditional lacing system, which I love because you just get a little bit more adjustability. I also think that sometimes traditional lacing systems can look better too. For example, the Crazy Fast Plus, it looks better than the Crazy Fast 0.1. I think I gotta go S tier for the Crazy Fast Plus. It makes such a statement, and because of that, it has to be up there. Next up, we have two versions of the Predator to wrap things up. We got the traditional lace version in a really beautiful all-white colorway. I wish that I had the chance to review that version just because it looks so clean with the white on white. In fact, that might be my favorite colorway they've released this far. And I think that it has to go pretty high. It looks, I think, better than any Predator that they've released in the past 5 years at least. Potentially even further back than that. And it looks great. I mean, the pred skin, the strike skin you get on the side of the boot, it's really well designed. And the 3 stripes, I love the way they put the 3 stripes in, like getting really wide towards the bottom here, taking up a big portion of the boot. It's very aggressive design, and I like that. I'm gonna go A tier for the laced Predator Elite. And last but not least, we have the Predator Elite with the fold-over tongue, which very well might be one of the most expensive boots on this list. The only boots more expensive than this are going to be the Crazy Fast Plus and maybe the Made in Japan version of the Mizunos. But other than that, this boot retails for about $280. So you would expect it to basically turn you into David Beckham, how much these boots cost. But I gotta say, from a looks perspective, I mean, they redeem the price. They look really, really good. Even in this launch colorway that isn't my favorite, the black with solar red and neon yellow accents, their better colorways have been released since then. But even then, these boots are beautiful. They're pretty much everything that the Predator should be about. The fold-over tongue, it really kind of takes it to that next level over the laced version. And for me, this one's gotta be S tier. And guys, that is gonna do it for the tier list. And please let me know in the comments below where I went wrong and what you would put in the S tier. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.